I kind of talked about this earlier today. If we're not teaching new behaviors, appropriate behaviors to the individual, we're doing that individual a disservice. Right? So imagine if you don't teach appropriate behaviors to a young child, pretty soon that young child is an adult. And that adult doesn't have appropriate ways of getting assistance, getting breaks, hasn't learned to do tasks independently, hasn't learned to engage in appropriate social interactions, only has problem behavior. We now have an adult who's engaging in problem behavior. And what happens with adults with disability who engage in significant problem behavior? They're excluded. They're excluded from employment opportunities, they're excluded from social opportunities, they're excluded from their communities because their problem behavior is severe. And the more severe the behavior, the more excluded they are, and they end up with these very small lives that aren't very fun. And then it's kind of like, well, yeah, no reason that, no wonder you're engaging in problem behavior. So if we don't teach skills to individuals, we really are doing them a disservice. Right? We've messed up if we haven't taught skills to an individual. So this is really, I would say, one of the most important aspects of any positive behavior support plan is teaching. Because if I don't teach new behaviors, you have nothing to do, right? Nothing to do to get your needs and wants met. And I haven't done my job. So we really want to make sure that we're teaching, and we want to make sure that we're selecting appropriate teaching strategies, and that those strategies are based on the context or the activity where problem behavior occurs, that what we're teaching really addresses an individual's skill deficits and challenges, right? So I have an understanding about who this individual is in terms of their skill set, and that what I'm teaching is addressing goals for that individual and also the family's goals for that person and the family's goals for their family as a whole, okay? Skills that I might be teaching, skills that I'm often teaching, are around things like communication, almost always, because problem behavior really is, in many respects, just problems with communication. Self-management skills, also something that we need to be thinking about. A lot of problem behavior is related to self-management. I'm upset about something, I don't like something, I engage in problem behavior instead of learning how to sort of keep myself calm. And activity-related skills. So a lot of times I actually am involved in teaching people how to engage in independent tasks while other people are busy. How to bathe, how to brush your teeth, how to make your bed, right? If problem behavior is occurring around these different tasks, part of the thing is often they don't know how to do the task. The task is hard. So I have to teach some skills around the activity. So if I'm thinking about communication, one of the things that I'm often teaching is a better way to say what your behavior says. And I'll use a strategy called functional communication training to do that. And FCT is really just teaching a better way to communicate the same message as your problem behavior. So if your problem behavior is tangibly motivated, it serves to get stuff, I need to teach the person a better way to say, I want XYZ. If problem behavior is about gaining attention, I need to teach the person a better way to solicit attention and interaction. Hey, come talk to me. Hey, do this with me, right? And if problem behavior is about escaping stuff, I need to teach the person a better way to either say, I don't want to do that, or can I do that in 5 minutes, or can I have a break, or can I have help with that? So I've got to teach them some aspect that gets them the same thing as their problem behavior, okay? So we'll do kind of a brief overview of this, and then we're almost at lunchtime, I know. If we're talking about tangibly motivated behavior, we can teach the person a better way to ask for stuff, and there are all kinds of different ways that we can teach that. One way is the picture exchange communication system, and at this point I'm going to stop and sort of shift our focus for a moment because I just have to. How many of you have heard of PECS? Okay, how many of you think that PECS is what we call the symbol? It's okay if you say so. If you do, that's incorrect. It's a really common mistake that people make. PECS stands for the Picture Exchange Communication System, and it is a procedure for teaching a communication behavior. It's an actual manualized program. That's what PECS is. Those little symbols with the little drawings from Boardmaker, those are called picture communication symbols, PCS. You can see where the confusion is, because there's one letter difference, right? PCS is the actual symbol, but PECS is a program for teaching individuals to communicate, often using those symbols. You can use photographs, you can use other stuff, but often we end up using PCS, the symbol, when we're teaching PECS, the procedure, right? And what PECS involves is teaching individuals to exchange a symbol or a sequence of symbols, give that to a communication partner, right? So if I give you the symbol for cookie, you give me the cookie, hence the exchange. Okay? And PECS was developed specifically to address issues around initiation for kids with autism. So Andy Bondi and Laurie Frost, a behavior analyst and an SLP, respectively, developed PECS out of this need that they were seeing around a specific group of kids with autism who, despite very, very good behavior analytic intervention, were not asking for things vocally, right? They weren't manding, if you're going to use the behavior analytic term. They weren't asking. They weren't picking up sign. And if they gave them communication boards, right, what's the problem when you give a communication board to many individuals with autism? They don't know. They have to show you what they're pointing at. They will just point, right? And I had kids, when I was teaching, that would stand and point to something and think that they were asking because they didn't understand that communication's a two-person job. Right? Again, think about autism and what we know about autism. That whole understanding the perspective of another is different from your perspective. And that's a key issue here. So kids with autism often don't do very well in terms of the initiation aspect. And PECS specifically addresses that, and that's the very first thing that they teach, is you have to take the symbol and put it in the hand of another person. It's not communication unless you do that, right? So PECS is a very valid and, again, research-based manner for teaching, and it starts with teaching requesting. You can use PECS for other communicative functions, but it's really, really best at teaching requesting. Okay, so we can do that. Some individuals might be using speech-generating device, right? Those of you who are thinking about coming in a month when I talk about iPads, we will be talking about some of the augmentative and alternative apps, AAC apps. Some kids might be using manual signing, right? So whatever method, we'll need to teach people a better way to ask for what their behavior is currently getting them, okay? That's the FCT part of that. If we're looking at attention-motivated behavior, again, we need to come up with some communicative message, some way that a person can solicit attention from another person. It could be, look. It could be, come. For some kids, it's about teaching conversational skills. They actually have decent vocal, verbal language abilities, but they're not very conversational. And so they engage in all kinds of problem behavior, or they say bad words to get people's attention because all the kids laugh if you say a bad word. Well, then we might need to actually teach conversational skills, right? How do you have a conversation with others? And then finally, escape. So if we're talking about individuals who engage in problem behavior to get out of tasks or to delay doing tasks, we can teach some specific messages. It might be no or no thank you, and sometimes that's appropriate. It could be help, because help can reduce the difficulty of a task, and then I don't want to escape from it. It could be wait, or could I have 5 more minutes? So I've taught kids before, if mom says it's time to go get ready for bed, and the kid says, can I have 5 more minutes? And mom says, sure, sets the timer for 5 more minutes, and now the kid knows, right, 5 more minutes, we're done. But that they can ask for a delay instead of engaging in problem behavior that gets the delay. Or they might ask for a break. Can I have a break? Sure, they have a break, and then they come back to the task that they were doing. So we can teach a variety of communicative messages that achieve the same outcome as their problem behavior, all right? So at the end of the day, we're talking about teaching skills, very important, And there are a number of skills that we might teach in addition to communication behaviors. And that's going to be dependent on the problematic routine or context that you're dealing with. So if the problematic behavior occurs during dressing, we might need to be teaching dressing skills. If it happens during mealtime, I might need to be teaching how to eat with utensils. Or if it's independent playtime, I might actually need to teach you how to play with toys by yourself, right? So whatever the context is, there are often skills that I need to be teaching in that. Our priorities around teaching are going to depend on the problematic routine and your goals for your child and kind of what's appropriate for your child to learn at this point. But at the end of the day, all PBS plans should include specific behaviors to teach, and not just the behaviors to teach, but specific strategies. How are we going to teach these behaviors? Right? So not just we're going to teach him to ask for a break. How are we going to teach him to do that? And not just we need to teach him how to dress himself. How are we going to teach him to do that? Not just we're going to teach him to play independently. How are we going to teach that? So there should be strategies, because that's how you're going to know what it is you're supposed to do.